My good people, my good people. Hello, world. Welcome back to the show that's hot with your boy, Rob Scott. This is Robs2Cents. How's everybody doing? Hope you all had a great and productive week last week, along with a great and relaxing weekend. And if you had to work on the weekend or just wanted to tap into your passion, I hope your weekend was productive as well. This is a pretty somber show, but I'm going to bring the energy the best way I can. As you know, over the past week, we've lost two legends in the game. We lost Hank Aaron and we lost Larry King. Now, Hank Aaron, American icon, and I'm going to have a tribute actually done by my cousin Sean Hamilton a little later in this show to Hank Aaron. Trust me, guys, my cousin eats and breathes baseball. And I believe Peanut, his son, my little cousin, is going to be an aspiring baseball player if Sean has anything to do with it. And Larry King was, I'm not going to say it got me down, but I do recognize that he's a legend in the game that I'm trying to step into, that I'm trying to get my foot in the door in, going down as one of the media legends. Larry King, probably one of the best interviewers to ever do it. Definitely a great person to learn from. I won't go into the whole COVID situation. If it was COVID that did it to him, that's not for me to say. All we know is that they are no longer here with us, and I wish their families peace and my condolences out to them, and I'll keep them in my prayers. And just know that you guys might have lost somebody in your life, but you just gained an angel. And I want the family and friends of Hank Aaron and Larry King to remember that. Also, we will be celebrating the life of Kobe Bryant, something that did personally get me down. As you guys know, or anybody who knows me knows that Kobe Bryant was my GOAT, even though I recognize Michael Jordan as the greatest of all time. There's no denying that, but we'll get more into that when I go into my Kobe tribute. But speaking of great leaders and figures like Larry King, like Hank Aaron, like Kobe Bryant, we saw some great leaders emerge this past Sunday in the respective conference championship games. Let's go over what went down in the NFC and AFC conference championship games. On the first game of the day, we saw the Tampa Bay Buccaneers come into Lambeau Field to face off against the Green Bay Packers. Let me tell you guys something. When I tell people not to bet against the GOAT, people tend not to listen. I don't know why people have so much hate in their hearts for people that are great at what they do, i.e. LeBron, i.e. Kobe, i.e. Tom Brady. Tom Brady is the GOAT. And let me tell you why I think that he's the GOAT. Because the Bucs defeated the Packers, y'all. Tampa Bay is going to the Super Bowl, baby. Now, I know a lot of you guys like, hey, you weren't no Tampa Bay fan before this. No. I am a fan of Tom Brady. Where he goes, I goes. And since he went to the Bucs became my team. And the Bucs didn't let me down. Because the Bucs defeated the Packers 31-26. Let's talk about what went down in that game. Tom Brady was 20 of 36, 280 yards, 3 touchdowns. However, man, Tom, you had those 3 interceptions. Leonard Fournette came into the game with 12 carries, 55 yards, and 1 touchdown. Chris Godwin, 5 receptions, 110 yards. Mike Evans, 3 receptions, 51 yards, including a red zone touchdown pass. And little Scotty Miller, 2 receptions for 36 yards, including that 32-yard bomb at the end of the second quarter for 1 touchdown. Aaron Rodgers wasn't bad on the day. He was 33 of 48, 346 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Aaron Jones, his running back, did not have a great game, did not have a great outing on Sunday. 6 carries of 27 yards for 0 touchdown. Marquez Valdez-Scantling showed up to the party for 4 receptions for 115 yards and 1 touchdown, and the Buccaneers defense was able to keep Devontae Adams at bay, where he had 9 receptions but only went for 67 yards and only 1 touchdown on the day. My key takeaway from this was the Packers' run game was non-existent. Had to rely too much on the pass game, hence the 48 pass attempts from good old Aaron Rodgers. I mean, we know that Tampa Bay's defense are run stoppers. They got Adama Sue and they got those other big boys to plug up that middle, and you're not going to run up the gut against the Buccaneers defense. Not against that front seven. And Barrett, their linebacker, had a game, let me tell you. But they were able to hold the other Aaron to only 27 yards on the ground. Aaron Jones is who I'm referring to. However, in his defense, Aaron Jones was only given 6 carries. So we can't put this loss on Aaron Jones. We're going to have to put this loss on Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur, because Aaron Rodgers was not able to capitalize in that third quarter when Tom proceeded to almost throw the game away with his interceptions, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were able to have Tom back and able to bring that game home. Also, it was questionable play calling by Coach Matt LaFleur. Now, this is the NFC Championship game, right? This game determines who goes to the Super Bowl. So like the Super Bowl, this game pretty much has all the marbles on the line. Our season, our championship aspirations depend on us winning this game and going to the big one. Why, with 2 minutes left on the clock and you're facing 4th down on your goal line, would you not go for it? Matt LaFleur decided to kick a field goal in his hopes that his defense will come and make a stop against Tom Brady and allow Aaron Rodgers to get the ball back again. News alert, Matt LaFleur. Tom Brady, besides Patrick Mahomes, is the king of time of possession when it comes to the football. He wasn't going to give you that ball back, sir. And especially with the run game being able to produce the yards that they were able to behind Leonard Fournette, Tom Brady wasn't going to let that game slip through his hands. He was able to capitalize off Aaron Rodgers' turnovers, but Aaron Rodgers wasn't able to do the same against Tom Brady's turnovers. Tom Brady got 14 points off Aaron Rodgers' turnovers. And even though Tom Brady turned the ball over 3 times with those 3 interceptions, Aaron Rodgers was only able to walk away with 6 points. Not a good outing for the Green Bay Packers. Even if you don't get the first down or touchdown on that 4th down play, you're still going to have Tampa Bay in horrible field position because they were pretty much going to have to fight out of their own end zone to at least get to the first down. You didn't even give yourself a chance to win. Now, I know that sometimes you want to play conservative, but sometimes there are times when conservative has to be thrown out the window, because that was pretty much a what the hell were y'all thinking moment. Now, Tom Brady did not have a perfect game. He's lucky that Green Bay was not able to capitalize on his 3 interceptions thrown in the third quarter. However, Tom Brady was able to make the plays that was necessary to win, and Fournette was there to assist him with the run game. Now, I know this sucks for Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers, because Aaron Rodgers went on and on about how he was so elated to finally have home field advantage in the NFL playoffs, which he has not had in his illustrious career. And he was excited that the playoffs were going to go through Lambeau, that cold tundra that is called Green Bay, Wisconsin. However, he was not able to capitalize. You never bet against the GOAT. You heard that at the beginning of the show. You've heard that in some of my other shows. You never bet against the GOAT. Now, as for Tom Brady will be making his 10th Super Bowl appearance in his 20-year Hall of Fame career. That is 50%, ladies and gentlemen. I really want that to sink in to my listeners out there and future listeners to come. It is hard enough in the NFL to make 1 Super Bowl. Have I played in the NFL? No. Have I studied this game? You bet your ass I've studied this game. And let me tell you, from what I've seen from the time that I've been watching in the NFL, making it to a Super Bowl is hard. Tom Brady is going to be going into his 10th Super Bowl with his second team in a different conference. Let's give the man his flowers while he's here. Tom Brady is a GOAT. Not to mention, this is the first time in NFL history that a team will have the home field advantage in a Super Bowl, because Tampa Bay is the city that will be hosting this year's Super Bowl. And Tampa Bay Buccaneers is a team that will be participating in this year's Super Bowl. Tom Brady has left no doubt in my mind, and should leave no doubt in any of your minds, that he is indeed the GOAT, and this conversation should no longer be up for debate. Again, final score on the day: Tampa Bay 31, Green Bay Packers 26. But let's talk about the second game on the day. The Kansas City Chiefs versus the Buffalo Bills. Now, the Buffalo Bills came into that game on Sunday on a little bit of a hot streak. Their defense were able to stand up. They were able to hold the Baltimore Ravens to only 3 points in the conference championship. I mean, not the conference, but the divisional round of the playoffs, and were ready to meet the Chiefs in the conference championship game. Now, Pat Mahomes was, as we know, went through concussion protocol last week. And it wasn't a doubt in my mind that he was going to play in this game. But of course, his health was a question of concern. And let me just tell you guys, Pat Mahomes was A-OK. Let's look at what happened during the game. Josh Allen was 28 of 48 for 287 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. He also had 7 carries on the ground for 88 yards. We look at Cole Beasley, one of his top receivers, 7 receptions for 88 yards. And Stephon Diggs also had 6 receptions for 77 yards. What is the common denominator in those 2 receivers? 0 touchdowns. Now, we look at Pat Mahomes on the Kansas City Chiefs side of the ball, and let me just tell you, the Chiefs came to play. Pat Mahomes was 29 of 38 for 325 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Darrell Williams, 13 carries for 52 yards, 1 touchdown. Tyreek Hill, 9 receptions, 172 yards in the air. And Travis Kelce, 13 receptions, 118 yards, including 2 touchdowns. It was just too much of Kansas City for the Buffalo Bills to handle. Pat Mahomes was executing on the highest level, and he took full advantage of his arsenal of weapons. You see, both Hill and Kelce were over 100-plus yards in receiving, and Tyreek was dominating the defenders with his yards he accumulated after the catch. I mean, one of those balls that he caught was supposed to be a 10-yard play. Pat Mahomes hit him 10 yards out, and then Tyreek Hill was able to take that for 71 yards, where he almost took it right to the house, or to the residence, as HaHa Davis would say. But not to mention, they were able to balance out their attack with their run game. Now, I'm not saying Darrell Williams did too much, but what Darrell Williams did was allow you to not stack up against his receivers, because you had to be conscious of the run game. And as we know, Pat Mahomes will use his legs, and he will accumulate yards as well with the run game. Now, speaking of run game, Buffalo run game was non-existent. There's no way in hell that Josh Allen should have had the most rushing yards for the Buffalo Bills at 88 yards. What were the Bills doing to help Josh Allen out? Because their run game was completely non-existent, okay? That's your damn quarterback. He's supposed to be worrying about executing and hitting his open receivers, not trying to outrun the defense. Let me tell you guys something. That was just horrible display. That was a horrible display by the running backs of the Buffalo Bills. And then not to mention Kansas City defense, who are not known to be a top defense in the league, but they were able to hold Stephon Diggs to not scoring any touchdowns on the day, able to hold him under 100 yards receiving, and not let him get into a rhythm throughout the game. Now, Kansas City was just clearly a better team. 31 points combined in the second and third quarters. They showed us why they are the best team in the league. And it's amazing to me that through the 4 years that Pat Mahomes has been a quarterback for the National Football League, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. He already has a resume for a Hall of Fame career in 4 years. This is his third AFC Championship Conference game that he's went to. This is the second one that he's won in a row, and this is going to be his second appearance back-to-back in the Super Bowl. Because now the stage is set, ladies and gentlemen. The GOAT versus the future. Tune in next week as we'll be talking about my predictions for the upcoming Super Bowl. You're not going to want to miss it. We're going to give a full analysis breakdown of the Kansas City Chiefs and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And we're going to decide right here on Robs2Cents who's going to come out as the NFL champions. Woo! It's getting good. But speaking of champions, let's talk about the reigning defending NBA champions, because that poses the question of my next topic of discussion. Are the Lakers the clear-cut best team in the NBA? Oh, the answer is yes. Based off the 17 games that we've seen so far, right now, the Lakers have probably been the most consistent team in the league. Now, tonight they'll be playing Cleveland, and Cleveland, we can't say that that's a give-me game. We can't say that Cleveland has been slouches. We saw what Colin Sexton and the Cleveland Cavaliers were able to do to the newly formed Brooklyn Nets. I mean, Colin Sexton gave Brooklyn the business. Do you hear me? But not to mention, they still have the best player in the league, LeBron James, or as I like to call him, GM Bron. And you can't go wrong when you have GM Bron on your team. Let's look back at a few of their games, okay? So against the Warriors, they took a L. Okay, it happens. Losing 115 to 113. So, defensively, it was a pretty good game. Neither LeBron or AD had a great game, and the Lakers cannot afford for both of their stars to have a bad game, okay? But against the Bucks, they got their groove back, y'all. They got back to their winning ways with the final score of 113 to 106. Now, at this time, this was a battle of the number ones, because at this time when they played, Lakers were number one in the West. Milwaukee was number one in the East. But GM Bron had his best game of the season, having 34 points, 8 assists, 6 rebounds, answered the call by outplaying Giannis, who was the reigning MVP, who only had 25 points and 9 turnovers, but he did contribute in the game with 12 rebounds. And then against my Bulls, yes, I have to say my Bulls. I'm from Chicago. I'm going to always ride with our Chicago teams. But against my Bulls, they won 101-90. LeBron had a pretty okay game, but this was the game that AD stood up. He was coming back home, and he wanted to put on a show for us. And he went nuts with 37 points, having his best game of the season. Now, the Lakers are looking poised to make another championship run. They are one of the best defensive teams in the league, sitting in second for opponents' points per game. So the Lakers play defense. Now, even though they got a little smaller in the paint, they got a little tougher, because now you're going to force AD to have to play that center position with Marc Gasol always being in foul trouble. And then you got Montrezl Harrell, who's just there Montrezl Harrell, who's there as the enforcer along with the Morris twin. And they are not going to let you just come in there and waltz in that hole without putting some hands on you, okay? Now, right now, they're currently tied with the Los Angeles Clippers for the best record in the league, sitting at 13-4. And even at 36, y'all, come on now, even at 36. Now, this is LeBron's, 17th season. He's 36 years old. He is still looking like he's the best player in the league, which is just simply amazing. Not to mention the fact that, are you guys watching this guy? This man, athleticism has not left his body. I mean, if you look at players like Blake Griffin, who's definitely lost a lot of his explosiveness. You look at players like DeAndre Jordan and even a little bit of Zion Williamson. Zion is not looking like the Zion that came out of high school or the Zion that went to Duke. And I understand maybe his trainers are helping him out to better preserve himself. Excuse me, but However, LeBron does not seem to be losing that athleticism like some of these players. I mean, I'm watching some of the dunks he's doing against Milwaukee, and he is dunking with ease. I mean, he is getting off the ground. He still has his explosiveness. He's still one of the strongest players to ever do it. And not to mention that fadeaway that he's added to his game, reminiscent of my boy Kobe right here. LeBron right now is just looking like he is miles ahead of the competition. And he is still the best player in the league. GM Bron, what more can you say? The Lakers are the best team in the league. However, there is another team emerging, but not in the West. Oh, if we look onto the East side of things, you're going to be surprised. I'm not saying the Brooklyn Nets. Because if you look at a team that is on the come up right now, we have to look to the Philadelphia 76ers. Oh, Philly is out there playing. Let's look at how good they've been this year so far. Right now, the 76ers are currently in first place in the Eastern Conference, sitting at 12-5. And Joel Embiid has been dominant in his last few games. Let's look at the game versus Boston. Now, they played 2 games versus Boston back-to-back. In those games, the 76ers won both games. First game against Boston, Joel Embiid balled in 42 points, 10 rebounds. In the second game, contributed with 38 points with 11 rebounds. In that last game, which was against the Cleveland Cavaliers, Joel had 33 points and 14 rebounds. He is making a case for the best big man in the league, and the numbers don't lie, averaging 27.7 points and 11.5 rebounds this year. Joel Embiid, that boy cold. Now, I know Philly was hit a little hard with this COVID-19. They lost Steph Curry for a while, who was diagnosed with it. And they were able to sustain and not lose too many games until they got their point guard back. But the addition of Steph Curry and Danny Green to the Philadelphia 76ers was just what the doctor ordered. Why? Because of spacing. Those are 2 bona fide shooters, no matter how inconsistent Danny Green is. You're not going to leave him open for a wide open 3, okay? Every team he has went to has won a championship, from the Spurs to the Raptors to the Lakers. So Danny Green definitely brings those intangibles of being a winner. And not to mention Steph Curry, who was just making some noise with Dallas last year. He is statistically a better shooter than his brother. Just statistically. Now, let's not talk crazy here. I do understand that Steph Curry takes more shots. So Steph Curry statistically is going to look like a more accurate shooter than his brother. But Steph Curry is not a slouch. Steph Curry is the real deal, ladies and gentlemen. And with him and Danny Green on the floor, with that spacing, what this allows to happen is Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons are able to play on the court together because there's space there. There's enough room there for both of them to operate. Hence, Joel Embiid has been having such a dominant season so far. Now, we know what Joel can do when he's healthy, and his health is always going to be a question of concern because Joel Embiid sometimes can be a little weak. And when I say that, I mean no disrespect, but it's just at times he let the smallest injuries keep him out. And like Shaq says, Joe, sometimes you got to man up. But man up is what you've been doing this season. And we got to remember, to me personally, Ben Simmons is not even in his full mode yet. I think Ben has been coasting right now. So you have to remember, even though Ben Simmons is not much of a shooter, with him having those lanes to be able to operate in now, and we do know that he is one of the greatest, one of the great point forwards to push the fast break and to get Philly into their sets. You can't sleep on Philadelphia, not to mention the championship pedigree coach that they bought in Doc Rivers. Because you have to remember that Doc Rivers is going to be bringing a championship pedigree with him. He knows how to win. He has won the big games before. And then not to mention, with his passion and pedigree, he's going to give this team a shot of adrenaline that they so desperately needed. Considering that Brett Brown, as great of a coach as he was for the 76ers and having them believe and trust in the process, he didn't demand the respect of the players that a Doc Rivers demands. I mean, these players know who Doc was as a player. These players know who Doc was as a coach, and they are excited to play for Doc, and you can clearly tell with their record. The 76ers look to be the new real threat to the newly formed Brooklyn Nets, and they look to be the top dogs in the East moving forward. Keep your eyes on Philadelphia, because if it comes down to them versus Brooklyn, if Brooklyn does not get a big man to hold down that paint for them, Joel Embiid is going to have his way with the Brooklyn Nets. Keep your eyes on the Philadelphia 76ers. And also in other news, in case you guys missed what happened this past weekend, Conor McGregor made his return to the octagon in a highly anticipated rematch against Dustin Poirier. The former lightweight champ did not have a great outing, as Dustin was able to score a second round knockout. You want to know what happened in this fight? Oh, I'll tell you. Dustin overwhelmed McGregor with calf kicks and a barrage of punches. I mean, he really hurt Conor McGregor with those calf kicks, man. He messed up his foundation. He messed up his base. You can clearly tell it just disrupted him throughout this fight, and especially throughout the second round. And what he did was he softened Conor up. He was able to kind of get Conor to drop his guard, because now you have to worry about your lower body, which we know was going through pain, which we'll talk about a little more in a second. And then Poirier was able to just rock him with that left. And when he caught him with that left, he then proceeded to knock the oh Lord Jesus out of Conor McGregor. God, that was such a nasty knockout. I mean, he caught him with a left and a right and another left, and he kind of brought Conor's face down to waist level, and that right that he just caught him with knocked him against the fence, the cage, what have you, on the octagon, and he just proceeded to ground and pound Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor got Nate Robinson. And I honestly think that McGregor knockout was worse, because, woo, Poirier, I don't know where you got them hands from, son, but you had some educated hands that night. And you looked to be hopefully challenging Khabib in the future. As for McGregor, we saw that he left the arena with crutches, assuming he was sore from those calf kicks and that knockout. And we don't know who his next opponent is. However, Jake Paul, who we know was the person that knocked out Nate Robinson, has been calling McGregor out for the longest. Ever since he got his claim to fame with that knockout of Nate Robinson, Jake Paul thinks he's ready for somebody like McGregor. I mean, he told him at first, hey, I got $50 million for you for this fight. And after seeing what Poirier did to Conor McGregor, Jake Paul then got on live and said, the price has dropped. I got 10,000 cash for you to make this fight happen. And I honestly think McGregor needs to go back to the basics with his training, and maybe he needs a fight like Jake Paul just to rebuild his confidence, because whatever confidence he had in him prior to this fight against Poirier, Poirier knocked that confidence right the hell out along with McGregor. Woo! What a knockout. And as we continue on with this show on a more somber note, as mentioned earlier, we lost an icon in American history. Henry Louis Hank Aaron was not only important to American history, but he was important to my history as well, as a black man, as a African American in this country. Now, I'm not a huge baseball fan, unfortunately. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I know baseball is America's favorite pastime. But I've never really been introduced to the game, and I plan on definitely enlightening myself on the game of baseball. However, my cousin Sean Hamilton lives, eat, and breathes baseball. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Sean, my cousin, who will make sure that you know exactly who Hank Aaron was and what he represented. Take it away, Sean.
Hey, cuz. So I guess I should, thank you first for giving me the time to speak on this. But also thank you for having the presence of mind to know that this is important to not just the sports world, but to the world in general. And if not, to our people. And you know who I mean when I say our people. But I should also tell you that I'm proud of you, man. I'm proud that you um, have chosen what you're doing, and showing the world how positive you really are. It's crazy because I've never, not once, seen you not smiling, and I can appreciate that, man. Especially in today's world environment and the things that we see on a daily basis. Um, I'm happy to see someone like you doing what you do. So I appreciate it, man. Keep doing it. Stay strong in this. And when you get that million subscribers, man, I'll be there with you. So um, good luck to you, man. Appreciate it. But thank you specifically for hearing me out. And I guess we should first say what we're here for, or what I'm here for. Specifically, I'm here to talk about a sport that I love and a person that I hold to very high regard. What I want to first say is just think about, to your listeners and viewers. Imagine if Michael Jordan passed, right? And it's crazy that I'm saying that, but I'm just being real with you. It's that crazy. Imagine if Michael Jordan passed. The world would be devastated, right? The same as if Kobe passed, right? The world was devastated, right? In a young man, if you will, not necessarily in a basketball or sport term, but he was a young man, right? Taken early, but he was probably, arguably, one of the best to ever play this sport, basketball. Um, so we lost someone just like that, for baseball. If you don't know, his name was Henry Hank Aaron. Um, Hank Aaron, believe it or not, at the time that he played, nobody really realized it. And then if some probably did, this man was probably the best to ever play this sport. And I'm just being real with you. If you've asked any ball player or anybody that played this sport in the 80s, the 90s, um, and even up until this day, there will be some that will tell you that Hank Aaron was the best man they ever seen play this game. Of course, there's thousands of others, or hundreds of others, I should say. Mickey Mantle, Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig. To bring it in today's term, you got Mookie Betts, Mike Trout, all kinds of guys that played this game, and some have been called the best. But literally, no one can really argue the impact that Hank Aaron has had on baseball. And even further than that, the impact he's had on the lives, the countless lives that came after him, and after he played this game. So to give you the stat line, because this is a sport pod, uh, the stat line that I have here is nothing short of amazing. Hank Aaron holds multiple records, and he retired in, I believe, 1976. He broke the home run record, which stood for maybe 50 years. He broke that record with 755 home runs in total when he retired. He literally broke 714 in the twilight of his career. He retired 2 years after he hit 704, his 715th home run. Believe it or not, he has never hit more than 50 home runs in a season, though. So that tells you how long he played this game to a high level. Now, I know the home run is the glitz and glam of this game, but there's another game called small ball baseball, right? Typically, you got players that hit the ball and get on base and steal, right? Or hit the ball, get on base and wait until somebody brings them home. Hank Aaron was the man that would bring you home. And it's crazy because he did that in life too. He literally holds the records for most RBIs. I believe somewhere around 3,000 or 20, maybe 2,300 RBIs. He owns a record for extra base hits, which is more than a single, more than getting to first base. I can't even tell. I think it's like 1,500 extra base hits. Total bases, he has close to about 7,000 total bases. The next person to that is probably at 4,000. So great. And he literally has, I think he's fifth in hits, over 3,100 or 200 some odd hits, fifth. And to put it in perspective, at the time he broke the home run record, it was 1974, somewhere around there. Baseball was probably about 100 years old at that time. And if you think about it, there were multiple teams, of course, and those teams had close to 25, 30 players over 100 years. This man came along in the 50s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, and played this game to a high degree to the point where he still owns records in 2020. By far, one of the greatest to ever play this game. Believe it or not, he played at a time where we also had three other guys that recently passed. Lou Brock, Joe Morgan, and Bob Gibson. Literally, these four men represented class above all. I mean, these men played a game that didn't want them there, played to the best of their ability with grace. And Hank Aaron was the ultimate graceful player. Literally, this man grew up from very humble beginnings, just like most of us. Had multiple brothers and sisters. Was born in Mobile, Alabama. He could not afford to play the game or in an unorganized way. So he would literally hit bottle caps with sticks. He couldn't afford a bat, a ball, a glove, any of that. And arguably became one of the best to ever play this game. So Hank Aaron, years from his retirement, a young kid like myself, born in 1981, almost 40 years old, and I still think of this man as the greatest I've ever seen. Not live, but I've seen his tape. Like most kids today have only seen Michael Jordan's tape, but could literally say he could be the best ever. But you wouldn't know that. He chose to not play in glitzy places or glamorous places like New York, who actually recruited him. And they wanted to give him a contract, but he chose to stay with the Boston Braves, which also moved to Milwaukee, and then lastly to Atlanta today, up until this day. He did not play with a whole lot of glitz and glam. He was not flamboyant. He was very humble, very classy, and basically the gentleman's gentleman. And he played this game to the best of his ability, even under a crazy amount of pressure and hate, to the point where he, had to have security 24/7 for breaking just a baseball record for playing a kid's game. And he never once got out of his character, at least not in public. And he basically held it all together all of that time. And I appreciated him for that. It showed me to always try to be calm, try to do what you can, be classy, be humble, be a gentleman. And I learned that from him and what he did. Beyond the game, even after he retired, he gave millions of dollars to education organizations, organizations for kids, like I believe in Alabama and in the Georgia area or Atlanta area. He gave money and time to the YMCA. He also gave millions of dollars to Morehouse and other HBCUs. He also has a foundation. I believe yearly they give close to about $350,000 to needy students. And the crazy thing is nobody knows any of this, right? He did these things in the dark because he was just that type of guy. Always humble, always a gentleman. And when I say he was probably Michael Jordan of baseball in his time, he probably was. And I can't even say probably, he was. He definitely was a great teammate, um, and always wanted everyone to play to the best of their ability. Sounds a lot like Jordan. Sounds a lot like Kobe. Sounds a lot like a lot of these guys. And he played a sport that today is not very popular, and some might even forget him. But there are others that won't. And I'm a generation after him, and I still won't. I'm almost 40 years old, and you can see bats and balls behind me. Been playing this sport all my life. And the one thing I know, if you're not humble coming in, you will be humble coming out. This is a sport that literally, if you hit 30% of the balls that are thrown to you, you're great. Can't say that for a lot of sports. So here's to Hank Aaron. Appreciate you, man, and love the way you play the game. And I idolized you as a kid, and still today. Here's to Bob Gibson, Lou Brock, and Joe Morgan, guys that I listened to in all of their broadcasts, and literally favored them in most of my movements and actions because I saw them as me, and as a lot of the kids that I grew up with playing this game. So I appreciate them. And I appreciate my cousin for giving me time to share the passion or share my passion for this game. And I would only hope that your viewers may or may not want to play this game or have children that play this game. At some point, I would hope that this sport grows up and blows up again, specifically for my people, because I feel like we can excel in this.
And thank you, Cuzzo. Thank you for that awesome tribute and your kind words for myself. I know Hank Aaron will be proud of the way that you honored him and his life and his legend. And I appreciate you for making that guest appearance on my show and informing the world on exactly who Hank Aaron was as a man. And now to end my show, I want to pay tribute to the late great, the legend known as Kobe Bryant. And who was Kobe to me and what he did to impact my life. Now we know all the accolades of Kobe being Bryant. We know that he's a 5-time NBA champion, 2-time Finals MVP, 1-time league MVP, 2-time scoring champion in 2006 and 2007, 18-time All-Star, and number 4 on the all-time scoring list, right above Michael and right under LeBron. But I'm not going to bore you with those stats. We're not going to bore you talking about the 81-point game. I'm going to tell you how Kobe impacted my life. Even though I never met Kobe personally, I always knew of his discipline. You see, I didn't get a chance to really understand the game of Michael Jordan. As you know, I'm only 33. So at the time when Michael Jordan was playing and dominating the league and bringing those rings to the great city of Chicago, I saw it, but I didn't understand exactly his mentality, the dedication, the discipline that he gave to the game of basketball. But I saw Kobe. And the funny thing is, I'm one to be truthful. Kobe wasn't even my favorite player at first. It was Allen Iverson. I remember actually, I want to say whatever that finals was, 2000 or 2001. Of course, the infamous step over by Iverson on Tyronn Lue. I was pulling for the 76ers that game. I could relate as a kid, coming up in the hood, what Allen Iverson represented. You know, I mean, we all wanted the braids, the tattoos, the rebel, um, and Kobe wasn't that. Kobe was disciplined. Kobe had structure. Kobe knew what he wanted, what he needed to accomplish to be considered one of the greatest to ever play this game of basketball. And I want to say around the time when Shaq left, when all eyes were on Kobe and he passed with flying colors, even though he had personal things going on in his life, which I won't delve into because I wasn't there, so that's not for me to say. But Kobe was able to mute the distractions and put everything that was not basketball on the back burner. And we saw him put on some amazing displays of just out of this world play on the basketball court. Things that I would go emulate that I could, you know. You could see me. I'm not built like Kobe. I can't jump as high as Kobe. So of course I wasn't out there practicing dunks. But I was out there practicing layups, the way I shot the ball, the fadeaways, learning how to maneuver my body to get to where I want to get to on the basketball court. I remember watching documentaries and various interviews on Kobe and how he would get up 1,000 shots and be the first person in the gym before everybody got there. And I remember making my way up to the basketball court, being the first person on the court, starting the 21s, being there an hour early before people start to come on the court. So that way I got my shots up and I was probably in some of the best shape in my life at that time. Um, and then I remember watching them rebuild that Laker dynasty and remember feeling that disappointment with him when they lost to the Celtics and feeling that joyous feeling when they were able to beat the Celtics the next year in 2010, right after they beat the Magic in 2009, becoming back-to-back champions. I mean, just watching Kobe play with the passion that he had for the game, it was beautiful to watch. Even when he went down with that Achilles injury, I believe he was going against the Golden State Warriors, and the Lakers needed that game to make it to the playoffs. And he had played his heart out that year. I think that was the year that they tried the Steve Nash and Dwight Howard experiment. And the Lakers really needed to win that game to clinch a playoff berth. And Kobe was giving the Warriors the business that game and went down in the fourth with that Achilles injury. And to watch this man who knew that it was probably a bad injury, but he didn't want to leave the chance to get it taped up and to be able to step out on the basketball court again. Because you know, if you get an injury in the NBA and you leave the game when you have free throws, you have officially left the game for that night. You cannot come back after you get it taped up or after you stretch out and get that cortisone shot. You're done for the night. And Kobe knew that his team would probably need him. So what he did was he went out there on a torn Achilles, walked to the free throw line under his own power, not only attempted to shoot the free throws, but he made them. That's just the type of person Kobe was. Kobe Bryant mindset was different from most. He was a true assassin, a true predator. I remember those games against the Phoenix Suns in those Western Conference uh, playoff games. I mean, Kobe just did some things that were just amazing. And to even watch him on his last game of the season score 60 points, even though it took him 50 something shots, just to watch him go for 60, to bring up every little bit of energy he had left for the game and completely laid it all on the line just for one last hurrah was just simply all inspiring. Kobe Bryant will continue to be missed. He will continue to have an impact on my life because I am adopting the Mamba mentality. It's one of the reasons I started broadcasting. Actually, one of my first clips ever on YouTube is me standing in the cold at a family member's house and giving my tribute to Kobe, Gigi, and the other victims of that helicopter crash. I will continue to forever keep those families in my prayers. I will keep Vanessa in my prayers, Natalia, Gigi, Coco. I would keep you guys in my prayers. It's just tough, and for him to lose his daughter, Gigi, and to see Vanessa make a statement like they needed each other because they wouldn't have been able to live here without each other. We saw how close Kobe was with Gigi. We smiled when we seen her courtside with Kobe and watching her highlight tapes, and we knew that Gigi was up next. Life was cut too short for them. But Kobe lived a life that was full, even in only 42 years, because he lived every day like it was his last. I mean, hell, the man even won an Oscar. Not too many NBA champions can say that they have an NBA championship and an Oscar. That just shows the type of creative mind that Kobe had. It just shows the discipline he has for anything that he puts his mind to. He's going to give it his all. And that's what I will continue to do with Robs2Cents. I appreciate you guys for supporting me. I appreciate you guys for watching this show. And I promise you, as long as you put eyes on Robs2Cents, I'm going to give you the best product I possibly can. And I'm always going to do it in honor of the late, great Kobe Bryant. Let's have a moment of silence for all those that we lost. And ladies and gentlemen, that has been my show this evening. I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in. I want to also give another special thank you to my cousin Sean Hamilton for the beautiful and awesome tribute that you gave to the legendary Hank Aaron. I want to give a shout out to my little brother, Scooter B. I told you I'd give you a shout out on my podcast, brother. There you go, man. Love you, boy. And my sister Jessica, my sister Ashley, Ray Shine, my brother Brandon, and all their kids. Hey, I love all you guys, man. And I love you guys for continuing to support. Please remember, like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, my people. If you like the video, just subscribe. It ain't hard. I appreciate you guys for everything that you continue to do. Remember, tune in next week where I'll be giving you my Super Bowl predictions. And remember, y'all, always be great. Being good is okay, but being great makes you legendary. You know the slogan, y'all. We gone!